good.
My favorite scene in this movie is when they have to go get the sphere to replenish the core.
Yes, I know.
Is
exactly
it
what you're
beryllium
gonna
or
say.
something?
Yeah.
Anyway, when they're flying down and Guy went with them, and he's like, maybe I should have stayed behind. I'm just crewman number 6. I don't even have a last name. And she goes, you have a last name. Do I?
Do I?
Sam Rockwell might be the... You know what? This is the funniest thing about this. It's like Alan Rickman's hilarious, right? And he's so damn funny. But Tony Shalhoub is hilarious in this movie. And so obviously is Sam Rockwell. Yes. I mean... I hate to say it, but it's like I like Tim Allen, but everybody else is great too. I mean, he's not bad, but it's like
he's an all-star.
Let's throw it together, make it happen. Welcome back to the Movie Dads Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Howie.
Kyle.
That's Kyle. Now we're back for episode 74. Movie Dads Podcast. You need to see this movie. The 1999 American satirical sci-fi comedy action film, Galaxy Quest.
Classic.
Classic.
The classic. Are you wearing a Ninja Turtle shirt?
I am. I'm wearing a Ninja Turtles shirt.
It's very like my wall.
Yeah.
Nice.
I got that poster. Actually, talk about that in a minute. But if you're watching us on YouTube, please click the like and subscribe. Make sure you get the bell to get notifications on when new episodes come out, which is supposed to be on Wednesdays. Not last week, not this week. We're a little behind. We'll talk about that. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can find us on many podcast networks such as Spotify, Apple, Audible, iHeartRadio, among many others. You can see some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We're Movie Dads. We've got Movie Kids, which usually gives us a chance to dive into the things that are happening. I think I talked a little bit about last week that I'd been doing some interviewing and it had kind of thrown a wrench into our plans and whatnot. But I did find out at the end of last week, I did get the job. Thank you. I actually start Saturday. I'm going to be training for the next 5 weeks.
Lovely.
5. Yeah, I'm going to be training for 5 weeks. I'm going to spend some time in Detroit, in Milwaukee, and St. Louis over the course of that time. So I'll make sure to pack up all of my podcast gear, and hopefully we can sort that out along the way. But I'll be gone Monday through Friday, so I'll be home on the weekends. So if we got to adjust.
That sounds fun.
Figure it out. Yeah, it's, check out some new spots and stuff in the evening and see what's going on. That'll be good. So I'm excited about that. I did get locked out of everything in my current position. Like I have no Outlook email. I can't access anything.
Oh my gosh.
So that happened 3 days earlier than it was supposed to. And nobody at the tech department can seem to figure out how to get it fixed because I've been dealing with that since Tuesday night.
Why would you not? You're at the same company. Why would your email change? That's weird.
Yeah, it shouldn't. The email should definitely not change. Some of the reporting and stuff I have access to in my promotion is different, but the email should not happen. So I can't access any of that. And it is frustrating. But other than that, so I know my wife told you I had to talk about this. So we do this thing in my house where like if it's like a Friday night or something, we're just kind of hanging out and we're going to watch a movie. Everybody fights. Nobody ever wants to watch the same movie, right? So we do this thing where everybody picks 2 movies.
Okay.
And so if there's 4 of us, we each pick 2 movies. Okay. Then we each get to go around and we get to eliminate 1. Right. Okay. So out of the 8 movies,
like,
now
that movie sucks. I don't want to watch
It's
that.
exactly right. So, so then we're down to 4, and then everybody gets to vote for a movie that's not their own. And that's how we decide. That's how we decide what movie to watch. So my wife suggested Austin Powers International Man of Mystery, which neither of my children had ever seen.
Outstanding.
Which my daughter's 13. Now, keep in mind, the Austin Powers are PG-13, though they push the envelope, for sure.
Very, very much so.
And my son is 8 years old. He's not quite 9 years old yet. So I was a little concerned about that. Like, listen, I don't care about violence and stuff like that. Like, it's the same thing when I was growing up. But you get into, like,
The fembots.
He
there
walked
are
out.
fembots in this movie.
He literally was walking to bed last night down the hallway, and he goes, "Should we shag now or shag later?" And I was like, "Oh no, don't say that ever again." So there was that. But we ended up watching all three of them over the course of the weekend because
oh my gosh, nice.
Both kids were thrilled with them, and my wife laughed so hard she loved those movies. So that was pretty entertaining.
Amazing. Yeah. My wife, those movies are a funny topic of conversation in our house because my wife had a very sheltered childhood, and the Austin Powers movies were like of the devil to her parents. So she has I don't think she's still seen them. But we've talked about them because like I will quote those movies randomly because they're arguably the most quotable movies like ever. So your wife did mention that on when we were chaperoning for the field trip this week. So it's like, oh, nice. And then we were just like quipping back and forth with one-liners from like, I love God.
She quotes that movie. She quotes those movies more than I do. Like I'll say something and she'll be like, "What's your point, Vanessa?" Like just out of nowhere. And it's little shit like that. She'll say that.
Smoking a pancake.
Yeah, bong in a blitz.
Bong in a blitz. Pipe in a cape. Fuck, what does he say? He says something like, there are two things that I don't like in life or that bother me in life. It's like when people don't like embrace other people's cultures and the Dutch. My friend Sean will text me randomly out of nowhere just with and the Dutch.
And the
we'll
Dutch.
just start dying. So
nice. That's good.
Nice. Love that. I'm assuming we're just already kind of jumping into our movie kids. This is our life. Like I mentioned, my son had a field trip this week, so that was cool. My wife was supposed to go on it. She got sick for like a single day, so of course I had to change all my plans and stop going to work to go to this thing. And it was actually a good time. Went to the Durham Museum in Omaha, which is pretty cool. It is the old train station. It's like this big giant, like 200-foot ceiling, just cool looking old school architecture building that they have turned into a museum in downtown Omaha. And I've been there with the kids, and like I think my mom visited once. We checked it out, but we didn't do it with like an actual tour guide. And I will say it was cool to hear the tour people talk, to like actually learn about a lot of the stuff we were looking at, but it was like super boring at some point. So they basically moved the kids to a spot, sat them down, and then talked for 40 minutes. So, but it was a good time. Got to hang out with Grayson. We had a blast. And then also just reminded me, like, we had a good time because we were driving to Omaha and back, listening to music. My sons have been like deep diving with me into like the rock of my like childhood, junior high. They already know AC/DC and Leonard Skinner type. They know the classics, but we were jumping into like Disturbed, like Avenged Sevenfold, and like some Metallica, and just like the last 3 days of this week going to daycare with like my fucking 6-year-old and my baby, or freaking with 10,000 fists in the air with Disturbed. Awesome. It's just a blast. So it's been kind of funny.
Like a little, just a funny story. When I was a teenager, I grew up in Council Bluffs, Iowa. We had like one movie theater, and it was at the Mall of the Bluffs, and it was like 5 screens, right? Like it was the only movie theater in the town. Like most of us drove over to Omaha to go see a movie. Like we'd go to Oakview or something. And we were there one random Friday night, like at the movie theater late, right? The mall's closing at like 9, but the movie theater was still open. Like they had a late show that was usually like 9:30, right? Yeah. And Disturbed walked in. And they were going to see a movie. They were in town for a concert, and they were going to see a movie. Yeah, so that was pretty. While you said that, I was like, that was the coolest thing ever because I was like a teenager. And Disturbed walked in. Yeah, that
is freaking awesome. Love that. That's like, that was the band that my sons were both like, don't change this. And then they're obsessed with Halo and Warhammer. So like the second they hear these songs, they immediately like, that's where their head goes. So Grayson's like, I need to put this on while I'm playing Halo. Which I will, like, he's such a after my own heart without me like teaching him. When I was a kid, when I played with like my guys, my toys, or video games, I would always put music on because I like felt like it made everything cooler. Grayson does that all the time. I'll walk upstairs and he'll have like fucking music blasting while he's haloing up to get in the vibe. So, anyways, yeah, nice. Well, if you don't have anything else there, we actually had a lot of news this week. So let's jump into our most excited segment of the pod, our 6 to midnight. This is the part of the show where we talk about the things that are exciting us this week, the things that get us up. For nerd news, new trailers, casting decisions, like all the fun stuff. There's a lot of things that came out, a lot of cool stuff that recently came out. I'm going to let you take the lead, Mr. Marvel Man.
Yeah, so the first thing I want to talk about is we kind of touched on this last week when we did Rotten Tomatoes. I talked about Companion that was set to come out, I did go see Companion. It fucking rocked, man. It was good. It was very like very surprising. Like some of the things that happened, you were like, "Oh shit, that's fucking wild." Nice. But at the same time, there was a little bit of dark comedy. There was some funny parts that like laughed out loud. Very entertaining movie. Highly recommend. Worth a watch for that one.
What was the premise of that? Remind me again.
So it's basically like a group of friends are at like a vacation house, and the main guy, who's played by Jack Quaid, has a companion that's like a robot, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
Girlfriend.
Yeah. Okay.
And like you don't know what happens, but there's like scenes in the trailer and stuff where she's covered in blood or her arm's on fire and you don't know what's going on. And it's pretty wild. It's kind of nuts.
I saw some like posts randomly about that was just like this movie and this android or robot is like an instant classic. So it was like this android is immediately an instant famous classic movie robot.
Well, we had that last week, and it's like a 94 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Holy shit.
This week we have Heart Eyes. Have you seen the trailer for Heart Eyes?
I have seen the trailer. I've seen a lot of stuff online about it.
It's like a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it comes out tomorrow, and it's like I guess it's very rom-com that just so happens to have a serial killer in it. Like very Scream-esque, but rom-com. So I'm excited for that.
That was the stuff I kind of got.
And then in 2 weeks, we have The Monkey, which is an Osgood Perkins movie, and it's already premiered. And the reviews for that are in the 90s on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, I don't know what's happening, but
that movie looks so cool in terms of the premise of what it is.
Well, actually, they're doing a 2-week early sneak screening next week at AMC in Council Bluffs. I got tickets for me and Reagan to go on Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday. Yeah, so check out The Monkey a couple weeks early. So I'll hopefully be able to report back on that soon. But
premise of that is who's the writer? Who's the main famous person connected?
So Osgood Perkins is the guy who wrote and directed it, which he just did Longlegs last year, the Nicolas Cage like serial killer satanic one.
Yeah.
He's also the son of the late Anthony Perkins from your favorite horror movie, Psycho. And it's based on a short story by Stephen King.
It was a Stephen King story.
It's a Stephen King story, and I think it was in Skeleton Crew. It was like the first Stephen King book I ever owned, and the monkey's on the cover. But basically, it's like twin brothers have like a deranged toy monkey that like finds crazy ways to kill people.
Looks
like
awesome.
In their family. Yeah, it looks pretty nuts. So I don't know what's going on with horror movies. Like boom, 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 right in a row. We got sounds to be like 3 home runs. So excited for that.
It's weird because we're not even in Halloween season, and all of a sudden we're getting all these freaking great horror movies.
I've noticed that like early parts of the year, the last couple of years have been big for horror because there's nothing else, right? And they're usually lower budget fare, so it's a chance for them to like, hey, there's nothing else out there, we can make some money. Point.
It's a good point.
So I think, usually January is a dumping ground for bad movies, but February's kind of hot for the pickings. So
yeah, I mean, well, this January we're getting all these 90s. So
I don't know what's crazy. And then obviously you were referring to some new trailers that came out this week. The first one, which premiered, I think, on Tuesday, was the first teaser trailer for Marvel's First Family, Fantastic Four, First Steps. Lots and lots of comments online, as there is for any superhero movie that people have been waiting for. Obviously, we've had technically 3 other versions of the Fantastic Four, though nobody's ever seen the 90s version because it really never saw the light of day.
Is that the one with, you're talking about the one with Captain America in it?
No, that's a totally separate movie. They made a Fantastic Four movie in the 90s that was never released.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Shocked and awe.
Like 94. And then
did not know that.
In 2005, they made the Michael Chiklis Thing puppet costume with Johnny Storm, Chris Evans one, right? That was in 2005.
Hear me out. That movie gets hate these days, but back at when it came out,
back in then,
people I liked that movie, and it was good enough that they made a second one.
Yeah, the second one was bad, for sure. Yeah,
very true.
And I think that's what kind of soured the first one. Plus, I heard a lot of people complain of how the Thing looked in this trailer, and we'll get to that in a minute. But the old one, I think he looks great.
He looks like he looks like he does in the comics.
Yeah, with the bigger forehead and stuff,
fucking giant brow.
The only issue, we'll get back to that. But the issue with the old 2005 Fantastic Four is they had Michael Chiklis in a rubber suit. And he couldn't move. There was no movement in it. That was the problem with that one. And then obviously the 2015 one, nobody ever talks about because it's one of the worst superhero movies ever made. Which is crazy because of the actors that they had for that Fantastic Four are now major top AAA movie. If you had Michael B. Jordan as your lead for any movie, that's a big movie. If you've got freaking old Miles Teller, Goose the Second, that's big. But Rooster.
Yeah, what was what's the girl? She was famous
Kate
for a
Mara.
movie too.
Yeah, Kate Mara is in it. She's in a bunch of stuff, but
when someone posted a comparison of the 3 things, the one from the 2015 looks so terrible.
He does look pretty bad.
He looks so bad.
And they screwed Dr. Doom up in that one so bad too. But
the big issue with that is, and when they show this picture of the 3 different versions, that 2015 one, I don't know why that time frame for superhero movies was don't put them in super suits. Put them in weird, they don't look anything like the Fantastic Four. They had no fucking suit at all. It was so weird. Yeah. And then we got this trailer.
Yeah, so this trailer. So the first, we were talking about the Thing. I love the design. I think he looks great. I love the whole thing about him. The only issue people seem to have really was he's not actually tall. In the part where they're all standing together, Vanessa Kirby's actually taller than the Thing. That's a little bit of a problem, but whatever. That was my first thought too. Actually, I'm such a toy nerd that when I saw that, I immediately thought he was he's usually a mega fig. He's a bigger figure compared to the Hulk,
normal
right?
one.
He's like a Hulk, yeah.
I literally was well, maybe he's small in the comics and I just don't remember that. But I'm pretty sure he's a big dude.
Yeah, he's pretty big. So. Overall, though, we know this takes place in a very 1960s-esque alternate universe, right? It seems. Did you get a Jetsons vibe watching this at all?
Yes,
Totally.
The design of just the Marvel logo of the word, how it's this 50s, 1960s Jetsons. Yeah. Leave It to Beaver. It's the second I saw it, I'm God damn, what a great idea.
Yeah.
DC, you suck. What a cool idea. It's my immediate thought. So
I am excited. I'm excited to see how they explain where this fits in. I saw an interesting theory online that somebody said, like, I think they are from 616, right? Like the base Marvel universe that the MCU's in. And when they went up in the rocket ship, they traveled to another dimension. And so when they ended up over there with these powers, that's why they're these big celebrities. I don't know if that's true or not, but I liked that idea. That sounded pretty good. I think that it's either that, or there's obviously on the chalkboard you see Reed drawn on. There's a part where he talks about multiple universes. You see it where like it's enter one here and exit here. So it's going to happen at some point, right? But we just don't know how that's going to work. So
I think he is, for me, is what makes that movie like super credible. Like why I'm very interested in this movie is because of the Reed Richards that we're getting. So
it's
Pedro.
an interesting casting. I remember when that came out, you and I were pretty excited because we obviously love how do you not love Pedro?
So great.
But he's such an off the wall choice for Reed Richards because, I mean, like, Reed Richards is the smartest man in the room, even when he's in the room with Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, right? Like, Pedro's like the kind of guy that you expect to be like smoking a joint and popping some mushrooms in the corner, right? Like, I mean, that's what you expect. You don't expect Reed Richards out of Pedro Pascal, but I like it.
Yeah,
I like all the casting for the Fantastic Four. So
I freaking love Human Torch, Stranger Things guy.
Yeah,
what's his name? He was in Gladiator 2. He was one of the evil brothers in Gladiator 2.
I'm gonna be pissed because I know that guy's name.
In Stranger Things, he was the new cool character in the latest season. He's the leader of like the punk rock group that ends up going on the run. Joseph Quinn, and he fucking plays that epic Metallica riff in the Upside Down and fucking sacrifices himself. He looks awesome. What perfect timing for him, based coming off that Stranger Things Gladiator 2. Looks great. I like the trailer. We had got the kind of the score for the movie a while back at one of the like big events. So
and I think it's Michael Giacchino too, right? Like the guy that did the Batman.
Oh yeah,
I think he did the score. So obviously the Batman, that score is amazing,
dude. And then we got the end, freaking Galactus,
which we got to talk about Galactus, right? Because so this is dumb too. There were people online that were like, "Why is he so small? Like, how is he going to eat?" Like, if you don't know anything about Galactus, you're going to say something stupid like that, right? Like, Galactus, like if you read Secret Wars, that's all you have to read to understand Galactus. You don't even have to read a Fantastic Four issue. He like takes his ship with him wherever he goes. He uses it to like he can change his size. Like,
I was like,
that's Galactus's thing.
Yeah, like he can fit where he needs to and wants to. When they did the like unveiling or whatever you want to call it at the big event where they did like that huge drone show.
Yeah.
It was like they had the Fantastic Four sign. It went dark and everybody thought it was done. And then just like massive, like in real life, Galactus came to life essentially. That got me pumped. And then seeing him in the trailer, I think it's fucking cool. Want to know why it looks so great? Because it's a superhero movie where there are superheroes dressed like superheroes in superhero costumes. Shocker that could be cool and interesting. I'm excited for it. It's the first time for a Marvel movie in a long time that I'm like, let's fucking go. It's going to be sweet. So
yeah, I'm pretty excited about the Marvel slate this year because I'm Captain America is obviously next week, which I'm excited for. I think Thunderbolts looks like a lot of fun. And then Fantastic Four obviously is going to round it out, coming out in July. Somebody posted something and it was like, who's coming out on top? Because it's the first weekend in July is Jurassic World Rebirth. The next weekend is Superman.
Yeah, I thought the Marvel movie was coming out the same day as it.
No, it's 2 weeks later after Superman. Okay. So Fantastic Four is 2 weeks after Superman. I mean, that's 3 monster tent poles in a row.
Fun summer.
Yeah, it's going to be great. There's a lot of good movies this summer, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
Then obviously we just mentioned it, but Jurassic World Rebirth, which I think everybody when that was announced was like, already?
Yeah, like
really?
what?
The original information that I'd heard about this was like, this was going to take place in the real world because dinosaurs are now everywhere, right? Like that's kind of how we left it. But that's not what it looks like in the trailer. Like it looks like they've gone back to one of the island, probably the second island, right? Like the one from the Lost World.
Well, I think they said in the trailer, right, that it's like this is the island that they did all their research for,
right?
The main park. So, which I don't think that was. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought
that's the second island. That's not the
okay. So
first
they
one.
already were there. It looks cool. There's water dinosaurs. I don't know why, but like anytime there's water dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, I fucking lose my mind. Just think that's so cool, terrifying. What did you? I mean, way different movie vibe.
Yeah.
Than
So
anything we've got before.
A couple of things. One, totally unnecessary. I think if you're gonna do anything with Jurassic Park, like you need to wait a little while because like the last couple were pretty bad. I like Jurassic World. I think Jurassic World was really good.
Awesome.
Dominion was bad, and then Fallen Kingdom, barf, dog shit.
Yeah.
I was very skeptical, unnecessary. The first time I watched the trailer on Wednesday when it came out, I was like, nah, I don't know.
I was trying to text you, like, I don't know if you're excited about this, but I'm not really. But the water dinosaurs are cool. That was kind of why.
So I rewatched it a couple times, and then I read, I watched a couple like people talking about it, and it got me more excited because of a couple things. One, the first Jurassic Park book is a horror book. If you've ever read it, like it is,
I have read
terrifying. Right? We just read it recently. Terrifying. The second one is also like that. And the first movie, basic premise is the same, but there's a lot of things that change, right? Just like any book to movie. The second book is nothing like the second movie at all. It's not even close. Like it's not even in the same ballpark. I got a very much a Lost World vibe from this trailer. Yeah. That's what it felt like. Like in the research facility, like after everything's abandoned, a lot more of that than I think we saw previously. Like we saw a couple things in like Jurassic Park 3. Yeah. That was from the Lost World that got left out. Yeah. And then there's some crazy ass scenes in this trailer if you go back and watch it. Okay. Like Jurassic Park 3, the Spinosaurus was nasty and terrifying and badass. And there's three, cool. And there's cool. 3 of them in this trailer swimming around a boat.
Yes. Terrifying.
We get like an old raptor vibe, the part where you see the toe clicking on the floor, and it's very much like, it's like the kitchen scene in the first one, right? Yep. And then I know everybody's probably biggest beef is with some of the Jurassic World movies was the Frankenstein dinosaurs, right? Like these mutant dinosaurs. Like dinosaurs are scary enough. Why are we doing this, right? Yep. But they've made one for this movie that they have described as a cross between a T-Rex, a Rancor from Star Wars, and a Xenomorph from Alien.
And if you great things.
If you go and look at that trailer and you see like its hand landing like this, and then you see the round head with just the teeth, you can't even see the eyes. Tell me that doesn't look like a Xenomorph. Like
it literally looks like a big giant Xenomorph. I thought that.
I'm curious. Like I know I'm not a big fan of the mutant dinosaur. I think it worked in Jurassic World though. I like that one. The Indominus Rex was kind of a badass.
Oh yeah, the Jurassic World movie was like the next best movie to Jurassic Park 1.
I agree. It was.
But for me, the reason why I think the concept of Jurassic Park is so cool and interesting is not just because there's dinosaurs in the movie. Like the concept of a dinosaur theme park is what's so cool to me. And so interesting. Obviously, you want it to go wrong because that's what makes a movie interesting. But like, I told you a couple episodes ago, like my sons and I set up a Jurassic Park toy area. That's what I used to do as a kid. So I'm glad they're going back to the island because to see like the facilities and stuff and get more back in that like an original vibe and setting, which is really why I was not interested in the last two.
Yeah.
I guess the second one after Jurassic World, they were on there first and then they got off the island, but like the new one was like totally different place and I could care less. I don't care about the dinosaurs migrating and growing elsewhere. I want to be on that creepy ass island. I want to see freaking rundown old buildings and make it like a zoo that is fucking infested with horror movie monsters.
Right.
That'd be interesting. So cast looks cool. Like it's very different, very interesting.
Mm-hmm. ScarJo, I mean, how can you not like her? I mean, she's entertaining. Yeah. Jonathan Bailey's a hot shit right now. Yep. Right, because, you know, and then Mahershala Ali is like the mercenary. Okay, like you would imagine that character would die pretty early on, but it's Mahershala Ali, so maybe he doesn't. You know?
Yeah, I got like ScarJo gave me vibes of like she's female Chris Pratt in this.
Yep,
and then Mahershala gave me vibes of like he's the modern version of the guy from the first one. He's like, shooter!
Yeah, the gamekeeper guy. Yeah.
So it looks more, it's the most interesting looking dinosaur or Jurassic Park movie since the last two came out that I'm like interested in. So I'll go see it.
Hell yeah.
Prep me for Superman. Yeah, okay. I'm trying to think, was there anything else? I did get a new, finally came in, baby. Speaking of Superman.
Oh, you got the Reeves.
Mr. Reeve Superman. Yeah. He's got the yellow S on the back.
Oh, I dig it.
Dude, it's the colors are just like, they're just so great. I've got art specifically for it. I gotta get set up. And I know Batman 89 never actually did anything. They weren't in the same universe, but they go together so well.
It's true.
Like, what a missed opportunity we had with that. But was there one more? Video game. There's a new game that just came out, quick hitter. I haven't actually played it yet. Came out this week. I cannot wait to play it. It's called Kingdom Come Deliverance #2. The first game was an indie game. It's a first-person RPG, medieval Europe game. You basically start in the first game as like a farm boy who then slowly stumbles his way into like becoming a knight after your parents are killed and you go on this like epic revenge journey. But the game is so, like the original game was so cool and interesting because it was super hard. Like you can't just pick up a sword and start swinging it like and know what you're doing. Like the combat is very difficult with the joystick and you progress through the game and literally you feel your character get better and better. Like when you start with a bow and arrow, it's like you couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. But like the more you practice, the more you figure it out, you get better and better. And it's just such a fucking cool game. I was obsessed with it, had never heard of it, and then randomly saw it on a video that was like, best RPG you've never heard of. I was like, I'm going to go play that right now. And I did, and I was sucked into it for months. So the new one just dropped. You're playing as the same character. There's a ton of random side stories and adventures you can get into. Go in and freaking meeting up with the friar of a random town and stay out all night partying, or go take out a castle with a siege. It looks awesome. I can't wait to play it. It just dropped. It is available now. They've already sold like 1 million copies or something within the first 24 hours. So pretty cool for an indie game that's basically now mainstream. So, but yeah, I'm going to play that this weekend. I cannot wait.
Nice. That's great. You have anything else? Anything else
to
cover?
Let's jump into it.
All right. So that takes us into our you need to see this movie of the week, the 1999 American satirical sci-fi comedy action film, Galaxy Quest. Galaxy Quest was directed by Dean Parasot, written by David Howard and Robert Gordon. The cast includes Tim Allen as Jason Nesmith, who played Commander Peter Quincy Taggart. Sigourney Weaver is Gwen DeMarco. It's like everybody has 2 roles, so I got to give them both.
Yeah,
right?
it's like 3 names for one person.
Sigourney Weaver is Gwen DeMarco, who played Lieutenant Tawny Madison on the show. Alan Rickman as Alexander Dane, who played Dr. Lazarus. Tony Shalhoub as Fred Kwan, who played Tech Sergeant Chen. Sam Rockwell as Guy Fleegman. You find out he has a last name. Daryl Mitchell.
Guy is crewman, also known as crewman
number 6. Crewman number 6, who eventually becomes security chief Rock Ingersoll. Daryl Mitchell as Tommy Weber, who played Lieutenant Laredo, and then a ton of others. This is actually a huge cast, and it's full of people that like,
dude,
holy shit, I know who that is. Like, that's that guy that's in that thing, or or like that's the lady that was in Dodgeball, and like it's all these people. First fun fact: this is the film debut for Justin Long, who plays Brandon the teenager, and it was also the film debut of Rainn Wilson, who played one of the aliens at the beginning of the movie.
Damn you! That was going to be the one thing that I've seen this movie so many times.
Yeah.
I put it on. My wife was watching. I didn't realize she's seen it and loved it too. So when I said I had to go watch it for science, she was like, "I want to watch it too." So, but the second it turned on, I'm like, "Holy shit! Is that Dwight Schrute?"
Yeah.
What is Dwight? I never even knew that. And I've seen this movie so many times. I just hadn't seen it when I had been older, I guess. But I knew Justin Long was in it, but the second he showed up, I immediately was like, "Holy shit, it's Justin Long!"
He's 12.
Go. Yes. I also, honestly, kind of forgot that Sigourney Weaver is like the main love interest, because she is never like the blonde hottie like in any movie she's ever been in. No. So it's like you don't even recognize that's Alien. That's Alien Lady.
Ghostbusters, she's kind of,
Yeah, but she's not like a total blonde.
No, I don't say not blonde,
bimbo.
But...
like she was just
when
very
she's
different.
she's the gatekeeper.
Yeah, she's good point.
Hovering above the bed, panting.
Point.
3 feet above the bed.
But I knew that the main actress was a blonde, like supposed to be like the bombshell of the crew. And as I was watching, it's like, oh my God, that's Alien. Like I didn't even fucking pick up on that ever.
She does look a lot different with just having blonde hair. Like,
dude, totally different human being. Seriously.
Yeah, it's I don't remember ever growing up in my childhood being like, oh, Sigourney Weaver, hubba hubba.
Dude, yes. Like,
but then in any this, of the you're Alien like, wait a minute.
That's what my reaction was.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Anytime I've never watched Alien and been like, oh my God, the lead is so hot. So seeing her in this as an adult was like, wait a minute. Isn't that the lady who was like never been? Okay, good for you, Sigourney. Go for it.
Get it, girl.
Alan Rickman is fucking hilarious in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I don't know if you had the same reaction as I did, but the second this movie kicked off, I'm like multiple times, this movie is so fucking hilarious. Like I said that just like 100 times during this movie. It's so fucking good.
My favorite scene in this movie is when they have to go get the sphere to replenish the core.
Yes, I know.
Is it beryllium or something? Yeah. Anyway, when they're flying down and Guy went with them, and he's like, maybe I should have stayed behind. I'm just crewman number 6. I don't even have a last name. And she goes, you have a last name. Divine. Sam Rockwell might be the. You know what? This is the funniest thing about this. Is like Alan Rickman's hilarious, right? And he's so damn funny. But Tony Shalhoub is hilarious in this movie, and so obviously is Sam Rockwell. Yes. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like I like Tim Allen, but everybody else is great too. I mean, he's not bad, but it's like
it's an all-star cast.
It's great.
Like a perfectly put together cast for what this needed to be.
Yeah.
My favorite moment, there are a lot, but it's actually right at the end of that scene, because they go down to this planet. They got to pick up a beryllium sphere because they need a new one. So obviously, we'll get to the premise of the movie because there's so many things. It's like, oh my God, this is so ridiculous, but fucking great concept. But they're trying to like beam them back onto the ship, and the dude's like, I've never done it in real life. He's like, okay, we'll practice on this pig thing. Yeah. So they fucking he beams this pig monster alien onto the ship, trying to practice so then he could beam Tim Allen onto the ship, and he does it. And Taggart's like, did you do it? Did he make it? Is he okay? And the pig fucking shows up inside out, and then it sits there for a second, and then explodes, literally pops. Tim Allen's like, did you make it? Is it okay? Everything, what happened? And the Adrian Monk, who also, what's his real name?
Tony Shalhoub.
Tony Shalhoub says, yeah. And he's like, Tim's like, well, what's wrong? And the alien just goes, it exploded.
It exploded.
It's just like the most perfect delivered line. I don't know why. That's another line that my friends and I will randomly text and just be like, it exploded.
And I like the part where they all get beamed up the first time, like, and they're all traveling and they're all like, and Tony Shalhoub lands and he's like, well, that was a hell of a thing. Just nothing. He's like, what's wrong with them?
It's like, Don, let me show you.
Yeah, he's pretty funny. Anyway, basic premise of the movie. I think this will be one where we just like talk about our favorite parts, but
for sure.
Basically, like they were all a cast of a Star Trek-esque sci-fi show. Mm-hmm. And it was a big hit, just like Star Trek was, and it ran for a few seasons, and they do all these cons, and they're like, Tim Allen's character, he was the captain, he was the commander, so he's like the big shot, and he's drinks too much, and he shows up late all the time, and like
he's Captain Kirk. He's William Shatner.
He's the rock star, right? Mm-hmm. And he's the one that's like he's doing his own gigs off the side without telling the rest of the cast, and so they all kind of hate him a little bit, but at the same time they know they need him, you know.
Yep.
So anyway, they go to a con. He gets recruited by these people that he thinks are just dressed up as like aliens, right? Because they're humans, but they all look, in these suits. And anyway, they beam him up to their ship. He thinks it's a gig, right? Like he thinks it's all a fake deal because they like pick him up at his house drunk.
Yeah.
And he wakes up and he's on the ship and he's like calling out orders and he blasts this guy that's like attacking their homeworld and he's going to kill them all, right? Saris.
Yes. He's essentially like drunk. He's not even has no concept at all that he's been picked up by an alien.
He thinks he's filming something, right? He thinks it's a gig.
He's like, send everything we have at him.
Right. And so then he's like, okay, see you later. And of course the guy lived, and that's why they needed his help again later on. But that's the premise of what this is all about. And each character has like their own thing. Daryl Mitchell, who played Tommy Weber, like he was a kid on the ship in the show, and now he's a grown-up, and so he's kind of got this like, why the hell am I still doing this? Like, screw you. He's like the one that's the most angry all the time. It's kind of fun. Yeah. Tony Shalhoub's like, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
Sam Rockwell's like crewman number 6 that like he just is trying to like work his way into the group because he was on one episode and he got killed.
He's like he's the host of any of the like events cons, that they do. Yeah, he's just like the MC.
And then Sigourney Weaver's character basically like just repeated what the computer said. Like Tim Allen would give an order and say like, I tell the computer I need this, and she'd be like, computer, he needs this, and that's like her entire thing, right?
You don't have to repeat him. That is my only job. I have one job, and that is it.
And then Alan Rickman's character's like Spock, right? He's a science officer. He's the smart one. He's the classically trained actor. And there's the scene where they're behind the stage at the con and they're waiting for him. And he's like, and Tim Allen shows up late and he's like, did I show up too late for his, midlife crisis or breakdown or whatever? And he's all you know, freaking out, and he tries to run out. Tries to run out, Tim out there, grab him, and they run and they chase him and they grab him, and he's like, nothing you can do, make me go back in there. And he goes, the show must go on. And he's like,
yeah, his character is so, it's all obviously satire, but it's like satire on satire, because Alan Rickman is like a serious actor.
Yeah.
And he is exactly who this character is. That's like, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm much better than this, but I will do it because the show must go on.
He said, Alan Rickman did, like, why did you do this movie? He goes, I wanted to do it for the comedy. He goes, I didn't care about the sci-fi. He goes, nobody ever asked me to do comedies.
Yeah.
He goes, I'm always the bad guy. He's like, I wanted to do something where I could be funny. Yeah. Like he's in Dogma too, you know, like randomly, you know, and that's, I think because nobody ever asked him to do comedies, and I think he wanted to.
So like his character in the movie is like essentially hates Tim Allen's character. Mm-hmm. But fun fact of the actual filming, like they did not get along while filming. Like they had like a strained relationship. So it's just funny. It really showed in the movie in a good way, made it interesting.
It worked.
That they like, he hated Tim Allen. Tim Allen thinks everybody loves him, so he doesn't think twice about it. So,
right. Yeah. So anyway, they all end up going to they all end up going up into space. I mean, we just talk about our favorite parts because it's such a good movie, and it's such a cool concept too, because it's so Star Trek and so like the con world too. Like they hit it all right. Like,
dude,
these people don't get a lot of other jobs, you know. I mean, like when you see, you know, George Takei, I mean, everybody thinks of Sulu, right? Like he's done a couple other things since, but like he's Sulu.
Yeah,
that's hit, you know. I mean, that's what it is.
So the original concept of this movie was supposed to be a Star Trek movie. It was supposed to be, what if the Star Trek characters end up getting somehow like zapped into the real Star Trek world? Like, how would they act?
Yeah, we got to say, like, these aliens saw old episodes of the show.
Yes.
And like they thought they were historical recordings. Like that's where the confusion lied in. They thought these were all real people.
Yeah. And they recreate everything from these historical documents, the TV show. They recreate the ship, they recreate everything, which I thought was kind of funny because obviously there's things like the Omega-13, which is this big like changing, you know, chemical type of resource that they have found that was from the TV show that they never finished the show, so you never got to know what it really was. But somehow the aliens in their universe or part of the galaxy actually have that. And same with the beryllium spears.
Yeah.
Like these beryllium spears are like what powers the ship on the show. But
so basically all the mumbo jumbo the writers came up on the show, these aliens took it and ran with it.
Yeah.
They found a way to make it all work for construction purposes.
Yes. So it's interesting. I just thought that was cool. I never knew until we're doing kind of some research that this was originally actually supposed to be a Star Trek movie of like, what if the actors or characters from Star Trek were.
That would have been pretty hilarious, actually, if they would.
I think they did
done that.
A pretty fucking fantastic job.
It's great because it's
of doing it without it being Star Trek.
100%. And I mean, like we talked about, everybody in this movie like nails it so well. They nail their character. My favorite thing about Alan Rickman's character is that headpiece doesn't come off. Even the parts where he's like at his house on the phone, he's wearing the damn headpiece. You never see the top of his head. He never takes it off, which is hilarious
and
to
it
me.
starts falling apart throughout.
Yeah, there's like hair sticking out of it.
Yeah. That's
but it doesn't come off.
What's the name of the good guy aliens that creates all of it and brings them up? I can't remember what their species
is called. I'll pull it up.
But they are super weird. Like the way they walk and talk, like they're just hella awkward.
They're Thermians.
The Thermium.
And then they show what they actually look like at one point.
Fucking giant octopi.
Yeah.
They like just the idea of whatever they decided to do to make them hella weird and awkward and uncomfortable, which makes more sense when you think about it, because they kind of look like freaking, what the hell is Spock's species? Why can't I think of
Vulcan?
What the hell? Vulcan. They look Vulcan with the bowl cut.
Yeah.
But they walk weird and they talk weird, but they are using like translators to, not translators, but however,
like a holographic,
yes, to change how they look
thing, yeah,
to look like they're humans, but really they're just big giant fucking
octopi.
The other cool design was Saris, the bad guy.
Yeah, it's badass.
Like, he looks like a freaking sewer monster.
Yeah.
He looks kind of like one of the bad guy, like the bad guy turtle from Ninja Turtles too. Like he looks badass and slimy, and his head has this like pineapple spikes that are like constantly moving.
And the second time you meet him, he has like a eye patch.
Yes.
Right? Because after the first encounter where he shoots him with all the weapons, now he has to wear an eye patch. This a fun fact I found out. The character Saris was named after a film critic named Andrew Saris that the writer didn't like. And when Andrew Saris found out about it, he goes, "Oh, boo-hoo, he doesn't like me. As long as he spelled my name right, I don't care." Which I thought was hilarious.
That's awesome.
It's pretty badass, actually. I'm going to name the villain in my movie after a film critic I don't like.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Anyway, things happen. They end up saving the Thermians, right? They defeat Saris. Like, we're going to talk about our favorite parts, get to the end of it. But they have to use the Omega-13. What they figure out, and they have to use Justin Long and his nerd friends' help to figure out a lot of this stuff, is the Omega-13 basically like takes you back in time 13 seconds. And they're like, well, what's the point of that? And Tim Allen says, well, it's to fix one mistake. But he goes back in time to realize that Saris had survived and doesn't kill everybody, which happens. And then he has to use the Omega-13 to go back and fix it. And of course they win, and it's great. And they end up landing back on Earth in part of the ship, like the transport part of it, and at the con, and then they get a sequel series to the show, Galaxy Quest, The Journey Continues, and that's when Guy gets his role in the show, is Rock Ingersoll or whatever. But man, there's just some hilarious parts. There's some creepy aliens in this. Like Tony Shalhoub ends up falling in love with one of the octopus monster alien people, which is hilarious because it's so.
This movie is just so freaking great. I cannot, it's fun and funny from start to finish.
Yeah.
Especially, I think, for people like you and I who are nerds about, like you said, like Comic-Con type stuff.
Yeah.
Nerding out about sci-fi franchises and Star Wars and Star Trek, because it's all like making fun of it, but also makes you proud and think it's cool, and you're like, I wish that was real. I would love to
right.
What if it was real?
One of the things that's cool too is like, so the Thermians all think these people are real, like they're real, like heroes, like they're these real science officers and commanders and all that, and they worship them. Like they grew up like watching these historical films, right?
Yeah.
And they worship them. And there's a scene at the beginning where Alan Rickman's character is like signing autographs at the con, and his catchphrase is, "My grab Thor's hammer, I will avenge you." And and like everybody that comes up dressed like him says it, and he's like just rips the picture out and signs it real quick and sends them on their way. And of course, one of the aliens worships him and says it right away, and he's like, "Oh God, stop it," And then that guy gets shot at the end, and he's like laying there dying, and he goes, "It was such an honor," or whatever. And Alan Rickman does the
"By Grabthar's hammer, thou shalt be avenged."
Yeah, and it's
there's some heartfelt moments in the movie. That part was kind of Saris basically puts all of them in a room and sucks all the air out,
suffocating them, and they save them. And there's a part where he's torturing Mathazar, who's like their leader.
Yeah,
right?
it's really
And
sad.
and Tim Allen has to admit to him that they're all it's all lies. They're actors. It's all a lie, you know.
Yeah.
And they, as aliens, the Thurbians don't have the concept of lying, right? Like the only person
Yeah.
that's ever lied has been Saris. You know, he's a
Mhm.
villain, so they associate it with it. So there's a lot of that in there. There's a lot of great moments, but obviously it's freaking hilarious. There's some cool action scenes too. Obviously the rock monster battle and the like that, it's kind of funny, but at the same time there's some cool action scenes. But man, what a movie. It's hilarious. I did want to talk about this because this was the wildest thing I found out about this movie. So DreamWorks wanted Harold Ramis to direct this. Like they wanted Egon
Really?
to direct this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he did Groundhog Day, like Caddyshack, like big time day. No, that was Ivan Reitman. Big time comedy director, right? And writer. So they wanted him to direct it. He was even hired and signed on to do this movie. And he wanted Alec Baldwin to play Taggart.
Oh yeah.
And then Alec Baldwin turned it down. So then he went to Steve Martin, who couldn't do it because of a scheduling conflict. And Kevin Kline was going to do it, but then something happened and he had to pull out at the last minute too. So then the studio's like, well, we want Tim Allen to do it. And Harold Ramis is like, if you go with Tim Allen, I'm out.
Crazy.
And so they went with Tim Allen, and Harold Ramis quit, and they hired Dean Parisot within a couple weeks to film this movie. It was in 1998. That was like right when they were going to film.
Tim Allen is so great. He makes this movie awesome.
But even like Alan Rickman, I think there are some people in Hollywood that have been rubbed the wrong way by Tim Allen. So,
which, like, his character in the movie is exactly that. Like, he rubs all of his friends the wrong way. Like, he's this pompous jerk who he thinks he is the character he was from the movie. So that is actually not surprising to hear that.
Yeah, but I thought that was wild. Like, I wonder if how much different it would have been with Harold Ramis, because I can't see this movie without anybody but Tim Allen, at this point, right? It's hard to picture that. But
apparently Sigourney Weaver requested to be in the movie.
She did.
That's pretty interesting. They originally didn't want anybody from sci-fi like movies or backgrounds, and she was like, that's silly. Like, if anyone knows how to do it. Yeah, if anyone knows how to spoof it, it's me. So that's awesome.
But overall, like, man, what a freaking movie. It's one of those movies I just like, I can watch it at any point in time. If it's on TV, I'll watch it, but it's a once a year watch.
Dude,
absolute classic, hilarious movie. If you've never seen Galaxy Quest, you absolutely have to see it. I mean, I can understand if somebody saw the trailer and was like, that looks incredibly stupid. It is not. It's actually very funny. It's a very well-written script.
Yes.
And the characters are absolutely dynamite top to bottom. You will laugh. Guaranteed.
Totally agree.
It's a 9 for me.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to give it a 9. Yeah, I'm not. It's a 9. It's 9.5. It's a 9.5 for me. I don't know what's keeping it out of the 10 for me, but I'm going to stick it at a 9.5 because it's so freaking hilarious. This was my number one movie that deserves a sequel when we did that list like a year or so ago. So, which turns out back in 2016, Amazon was considering doing a sequel for it, like had planned, but it just never came to fruition and technically has been in limbo. But
I don't know if you would do it now with.
Yeah, I think that's why what it says here is
Tim Allen. Tim Allen's super old. Alan Rickman's obviously passed away. So
man, what a fucking missed opportunity.
Yeah, heck of a movie though.
Yeah. If you have not watched this movie recently, go watch it.
And it's I think it's PG-13, but it's pretty kid friendly. Like some of the aliens are a little creepy, but there's nothing like super inappropriate. There's a point where Sigourney Weaver's running around with like her thing unzipped and her bra's hanging out, but it's nothing too bad. Like it's pretty it's pretty tame. It probably could have pulled off a PG rating, I think.
I agree. I wanted to watch it with the boys, but by the time we got to the day that we needed to watch it, they were already asleep. So I was like, all right,
Sure.
you're gonna miss
anyway.
out.
Yeah, Galaxy Quest. Check it out. That takes us into my favorite segment. There can be only 5.
Only 5.
Straight on brand today. Top 5 Tim Allen performances. Not movies. Performances.
Did you pick up on that? Performance is not Christmas. That's how I did mine.
I cheated.
I feel like it was really kind of fucked up not to have him in there because that's what his main movie is.
There's not a ton of options, you know. I mean, like, he did make some shitty ass movies, just to be fair. So
I thought he had made more movies. Looking at his full library, Tim Allen has actually not made very many movies. But some of the movies he did make, he made a lot of money doing it. So
yeah, that is true. So your choice, take it away.
I am going to jump on first. So I the way I sent this to Howie was top 5 Tim Allen performances that are not a Christmas movie, which is kind of unfair to say because obviously there are multiple Christmas movies he's famous for, but I wanted to talk about something else because we've talked about his movies. So I did put those as an honorable mention though. I've got Santa Claus, and then what's the other holiday movie he's in with is it
Christmas
Sigourney
with
Weaver?
The Cranks?
Christmas with the Cranks. I put that as an honorable mention too. Okay, number 5, best Tim Allen performances. That I don't know why I thought this movie was so funny, but as a kid, it was hilarious to me. It's called For Richer or Poorer. Mm-hmm. It's from 1997. But basically, Tim Allen and Kirstie Alley are like rich New Yorkers who their like accountant or something screws up and blames them for something illegal. So they go on the run.
Tax evasion, basically, like a bunch of money comes up missing or something. Yeah.
So they go and like on the lam and they live like the Amish lifestyle. They go and like live like they're Amish, and it is super goofy, super funny. Rotten Tomato score is horrible.
Yeah.
But as a kid, for whatever reason, that movie, like, I was a big Tim Allen fan as a kid. So
he had a way to like elevate some of the stuff he was in,
for sure,
because of how funny he was. Now, to be fair, Tim Allen is Tim Allen.
Yes,
just about everything he's in.
Okay, so 1997 was. I mean, 1997, 98, 99 were his years. Like that's where his world was. Made enough money in that time frame that he hadn't worked since. But the other movie, my number 4, which you probably don't have this on your list at all, but for whatever reason, this movie was cool to me. It's called Jungle to Jungle. This is, like I said, 1997, but it had basically he had found out that he had like a son with his old flame that had been like living with like an indigenous tribe in like Africa, and he goes and he meets his son and brings his son back to New York with him, and like it's hilarious. Freaking Martin Short is in it. So his son, who he's trying to teach about like the normal world, is basically like a tribesman living in New York, and he's like killing like a fly with like a blow dart, and he's over at Martin Short's house and like eats his like super like expensive like his prized possession fish. Like it's a goofy movie, but for whatever reason, when I was a kid, I thought Jungle to Jungle was hilarious. You probably don't even remember either of those movies because no one talks about those these days. And then we jump into a whole nother stratosphere of movies, franchises that sets Tim Allen apart. It's probably pretty blasphemous for this to be number 3 and not number 1. But I'm going to put it at number 3 because I like the other 2 ahead of it. I've got the Toy Story franchise as my number 3 for Tim Allen. Buzz Lightyear is an all-time character. He was so cool in Toy Story 1. Actually, in all of the Toy Story movies, he's hilarious. He is the coolest Space Ranger toy there ever was. I like, what a perfectly casted voice actor for the character of Buzz Lightyear.
Absolutely.
Just absolutely knocks it out of the park. He will, like, they came out with a Buzz Lightyear movie where Chris Evans was the voice for Buzz, and it was not the same. And Tim Allen is Buzz Lightyear.
Right.
That's his Iron Man.
Tim Allen wouldn't have saved that movie, though.
Oh, for sure. No. I don't think the concept of that movie was right. So,
no.
Which is funny because there is a cartoon Buzz Lightyear movie that was made. I think Buzz Lightyear's Star Command.
Yep, that's exactly what it was. Yep.
That they took. It's like you cannot find it anywhere unless you own the VHS.
Really?
It is non-existent online. Even when you like Google it and try to find it, you cannot find it anywhere. It has been wiped from all of existence online. I'm not even kidding. Try to look that movie up and see what you find. Okay, number 2, I've got the movie we watched for this episode, Galaxy Quest. I freaking love this movie with all my heart and soul. It's so freaking hilarious. Galaxy Quest, number 2. And then number 1, for me, this show was like everything as a kid. Yeah. I'm a little brother of 3 brothers, 2 parents who loved each other. My oldest brother was a star athlete with sports. This family, from the TV show Tool Time, Home Improvement, which Tim Allen is, wow, that's embarrassing. Home Improvement, where Tim Allen is he leads a TV show called Tool Time.
Right.
But basically Home Improvement was Tim Allen and his wife and 3 sons just getting into shenanigans, showing him kind of run his TV show where he's like a do-it-yourself man's man fixer-upper construction guy. Yeah, more. The show was so funny.
Yeah.
As a kid, we loved it. I think when I was in college, or maybe a little bit after, I had gone back and like just randomly started watching episodes on it again, and it's like a comfort food for me. Like watching that show, I just love it so much. Home Improvement is freaking awesome. For me, that's the greatest Tim Allen thing he's ever done. Even more so than Toy Story, Galaxy Quest. Bring it on. What do you got?
Very similar. Very similar. Very similar. All right. Top 5 Tim Allen roles, performances. All right.
Okay. What you got?
Number 5. The one you've probably never seen is the movie Red Belt, which is a David Mamet movie where
Red Belt,
yeah. So he's in the movie. He plays like a action star, movie star that gets this like martial arts instructor who saves his life into the film industry. I love David Mamet movies. He does plays as well. And so like when this came out, this was something that was like super low budget, indie film. Nobody ever saw except for me, and I own it on DVD.
It's 2008.
Yeah, Red Belt fucking rocks. And yeah, David Mamet. Did you ever see, like, he did State and Maine, Wag the Dog. Like he's got
a high Rotten Tomato score.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's awesome. Anyway, Tim Allen. It's a little more of a dramatic role, and he's awesome in it, and it's worth checking out. So anyway, I had Red Belt at number 5. And number 4, I cheated. I had to put the Santa Claus on the list. I know you didn't want us to do Christmas movies. I put Santa Claus on the list anyway. Tim Allen is so good as Scott Calvin / Santa, especially in the first one. Like, it makes that movie great. And he's
for sure
him changing and stuff, and all the comedy that goes with it. Santa Claus is an absolute classic. So I'd put it on. I had a tough time with my top 3. My top 3 is the same as yours, a different order, but I put Galaxy Quest at 3, and that was not because of how much I love this movie. I think it's great. Like we just talked about it. But I told you, like, I think even when we started talking about the movie, like, out of all the actors, like, Tim Allen's might be the worst one out of the group. Like, and he's not bad. It's just that everybody else was so freaking good.
Yeah.
So I put it at number 3. I just felt like
Nice.
that's kind of where it needed to go. I had a hard time with 1 and 2 and what order I was going to go in. But I put Toy Story at number 2.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Buzz Lightyear is such an iconic character. Those some of the greatest animated films of all time. Obviously, changed the way we did things with Pixar. And Buzz Lightyear is such an iconic part of that. And it's hard sometimes to remember that that's Tim Allen because he plays such a straight especially in the first one, right? Like it's hilarious. And it's funny because it's like Tom Hanks is the goofy one, right? And Tim Allen's the straight in the first one, and he does such a great job, and they do such a good job with each other. So, what an iconic role, but voicing Buzz Lightyear. But and then number 1's Home Improvement. Like I was the same as you, man. I think I was the same age as the older brother. Like when that show was on, and we watched it. Like that was one of the few shows. Like it was me, my mom, my dad, my sister. We'd like Wednesday nights at 7:00 or whatever. Like we were made sure dinner was done, homework was done. We're gonna watch Home Improvement because we had DVR, so you had to watch it when it was on. So what a show, man! I loved it. It cracked me up. It's probably one of my favorite sitcoms of all time.
Right.
Every character was just great.
It's one of those shows that was on for so long that you
grew up
like
with
you
it.
Said, we grew up with the kids in the show, so it was so great.
Yeah, it's iconic. It's what made Tim Allen, right? Is that show. And like he's got a new show that's just premiering like this week on, ABC. And
he's been on another show.
Last Man Standing was on for a very long time, which I didn't watch, but I know.
That's why I think, maybe I was just, when I was looking at his movie list, I was so shocked. I was like, what? Tim Allen's been in way more, I thought. But I think just because the movies he's been in were generally those top 3 or 4 are so iconic. Toy Story is so, you see it everywhere for basically since it came out, you see Toy Story stuff. And then obviously his TV shows that he's in many, many, many episodes. So that's what I was just like, man, I thought we'd seen him way more than just like 12 movies.
Yeah, that's the thing about Tim Allen is his filmography is not gigantic, but he's made so many iconic roles, especially Buzz Lightyear and Tim Taylor, right? Like Santa Claus, like those. That he never had to do anything else ever again.
Yeah, literally. So I think he just does did Last Man Standing and then this new show just because he's like bored.
Yeah, it might be it. I mean, I think he has like a reality show or something called More Power. That's like where they, it's kind of like Tool Time, but it's more about cars and stuff and souping them up, and it's like right up his wheelhouse. And
I think that's probably why his character in Home Improvement was so cool or funny or interesting, because I think those are all the things that he actually was like a nerd about. Nerd about cars, nerd about man stuff, building things. And I loved that he in that show was like the tool man, Tim the Tool Man Taylor, but he was like also like the big screw up with almost
the
everything.
Bumbling idiot.
So anything he made was broken.
Straight.
Al Borland's there just saving his butt. Tim Allen always needs a second, like a partner in crime, a buddy cop to make his things funny. So, okay. Love that. Love your list. Very similar to mine.
Right.
Did not realize it was going to be as short of a list to pick from when we originally were doing it, but it worked out. Right. I like all of those movies. So, in that show. So that takes us into our the newest segment of ours that I think we've now been doing for almost a year. Is our How Rotten Is Your Tomatoes? This is the part of the show where we pair some movies together, we throw it and quiz the other, and see if they can pick what they think the Rotten Tomatoes score was and which movie was higher, which was lower. So, I got wild with this list. I only picked four pairings. And I went with all 1999 movies. So here we go. Which actually, this first group, as I was writing it down, I was like, I feel like we talked about this at some point. Maybe Howie had it on our list, maybe not. 1999's Lake Placid versus 1999's Deep Blue Sea.
Oh man,
I'm gonna say Lake. Both of those movies.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, man! Lake Placid's a fucking awesome movie.
Yeah, I like Deep Blue Sea a lot. I actually like it too. More.
I'm gonna say Lake Placid's higher. Feel like it had a better script and better effects. It was one of those it was funnier than it was scary.
Yeah,
Lake Placid. Oh my god, it has one of my favorite lines in it.
The king from
Oliver Platt.
From Ready to Rumble.
And the sheriff is Brendan Gleeson, and he's Mad Eye Moody. He was the sheriff in that, and nobody knew who he was.
Yeah.
And he's kind of a hick. And there's a part where he's talking about something, and Oliver Platt says to him, he goes, "Oh yeah, they hide information like that in books." And just fucking dog at him. I love that movie. Anyway, I'm gonna say Lake Placid's higher at a 78. And I'm going to say Deep Blue Sea's a 54.
Deep Blue Sea is higher.
Really?
At a 60%.
Shocking.
Lake Placid was a 47%.
I disagree.
I knew when we did that, I knew you were going to take Lake Placid. And I knew you were also going to be shocked that it was significantly lower.
And her foul mouth in that movie, it's hilarious.
She's the reason why the alligator's so big, right? Wasn't she feeding it?
And she's
Betty White.
She says the F-bomb every other word. It's Bill Pullman, Bridget Fonda, Oliver Platt, Brendan Gleeson, It's a movie rocks.
Betty White is the bad guy in Lake Placid.
Foul mouth is hilarious.
That's fucking awesome. Okay, 2 more movies from 1999. I love both of these movies. I don't care what you think. Will Smith led The Wild Wild West.
Dog shit.
Versus Rob Schneider led Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo. Did you see both of these movies?
Yes, I've seen both of those movies. Funny story about Wild Wild West. Wild Wild West. So Will Smith was the king of the 4th of July weekend, right? Independence Day, Men in Black. Wild Wild West came out, right? So I had turned 17 the year that came out, right? And my birthday's in July 4th. So me and my buddies decided we're going to go to the movies the day after my birthday. We're going to go see South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut.
Nice.
Okay.
What a classic.
Classic, right? Well, one of us was 16. And he schmoozes the ticket girl into giving him a ticket, but they checked tickets at the door.
Oh, shit.
And IDs, right? So we had to go see Wild Wild West instead. And I was so disappointed. And the movie was awful. So I hate Wild Wild West. So I'm going to say,
there's
because
a reason.
Of that,
that's such a funny reason. I'm going to say
because of that, Deuce Bigelow's higher at a 40. And Wild Wild West is a 38.
Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo, led by Rob Schneider, was higher.
Excellent.
At a 23%.
Oh, okay. And I gave it too much credit.
Wild Wild West, led by Will Smith, was a 16%.
That's exactly where it should be.
I wholeheartedly disagree. I liked Wild Wild West, but I was
so
a
bad.
kid. I was 9 when this came out. There was awesome Burger King.
I was 17.
Badass Burger King toys that came out with this movie.
Have you ever seen An Evening with Kevin Smith?
Yes.
The giant spider story.
Yes, the giant spider that is in
John
this
Peters
Wild West
wanted a giant spider in his Superman movie. And he said no.
The giant robot spider in the movie Wild Wild West is there because they originally had it planned for the Nicolas Cage Superman that never came to light. So outstanding. Love that. These are
there
great.
Must be some kind of mistake. Did you say steak? Deuce Bigelow is something else.
Dude, Deuce Bigelow people loved it. They made a second one. It was so funny.
It's a Sandler movie with Rob Schneider. That's what it is.
Yes, and you get the super attractive, hot guy from the Mummy. In the Mummy movie, he was what's the like the guardians and protectors of the Egyptian.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The Magi. He was the Magi in the Mummy. He was the guy whose house the Juice Bigelow was.
He was the actual Gigolo. Yeah.
Yes. What's the other dude, the black dude that's in that movie with him is
it's been a minute.
What's his name? He was super popular in the 90s. I of course can't think of his name, but I met him right around this time. He was at a hotel in Sacramento when my family was there, like for an event or something. We got to meet him, and of course I can't think of his name on top of my head, which is embarrassing.
Eddie Griffin.
That's who it was. And he was in both movies, and he was funny at the time. So okay, I got two more pairs. Here we go. This pair works out perfectly with one of the movies you talked about earlier. I've got 1999's Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Oh, okay.
Versus 1999's Adam Sandler-led Big Daddy.
Ooh, that's tough, man. I'm gonna go with Spy Who Shagged Me as being higher at a 78, and I'm gonna say Big Daddy's a 75.
Wow. Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, was higher at a 53%.
Okay.
And Big Daddy, which I was shocked, was a 39%.
I was never a Big Daddy fan. Like, it's got some good moments, but like, I was a Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore Waterboy guy. Big Daddy to me, like, he played too much of a straight. I was like, no, I don't. And then he went too far over, and he did like Little Nicky, and it was like, oh, that's even worse. Man, you go back.
So I think you were 17 and I was 9. So like I think our lens on a lot of the movies from this year was very different.
Probably.
But I mean, we've talked about 6 movies so far, all from the same year, but they're like, we remember all of these movies pretty vividly. Yeah. So that 1999 crushed it, even though these were like looked at as bad movies.
Very bad or mid movies,
but very memorable.
But I mean, I like The Spy Who Shagged Me, I thought was the funniest of the Austin Powers movies. I thought the second one was the funniest.
Yes, I think generally when you think of the 3 Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me is like the top one. Goldmember, for whatever reason, has like a special place in my heart just because there's so many hilarious like one-liners.
They're all funny, but I think Spy Who Shagged Me was like, that's when you got Fat Bastard. That's when you got Mini-Me. Oh man, they were pretty good.
For sure. And the third one was like trying to recreate like what the second one did. Because the first one was okay, but in comparison.
It set the tone. I laughed. I remember seeing it in theater like nobody else did.
Yeah.
And it was like, what is this movie? Holy shit, this is actually pretty funny. Like these jokes are
what is going on?
Whatever.
This guy whose name is the same as a horror movie character is actually funny as all these random characters. So.
Who does number 2 work for?
Dude.
You tell that turd who's boss.
There's so many freaking in the third one, when you get the cameo of like Tom Cruise as Austin Powers.
Oh yeah, it's Tom Cruise, Gwyneth Paltrow, Kevin Spacey's Dr. Evil, and Danny DeVito's Mini-Me. Hilarious.
That was awesome. Yeah. That was awesome. Okay, last pair. Here we go.
Went on the Subway diet. Like Jared. Now my neck looks like a vagina.
Oh my god. Or even that's what made like Chili's like they are forever grateful.
I want my baby back ribs.
Chili.
How many people just say, get in my belly?
Dude, that fat bastard was fucking so
horribly offensive and yet hilarious.
I mean, we remember it to this day. So
I don't remember eating corn.
Get in my belly. It's
like a wee baby.
I was going to say the baby part. It's like a baby's arm holding an apple.
Oh, yeah. Tripod. Oh.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Right.
Last pairing. I've got 1999's Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence, Life. And 1999's Martin Lawrence led Blue Streak.
I think Life is higher. I think Life was actually pretty highly rated.
Oof. Very memorable. People look fondly back on that movie.
Man.
People forget about the I Have a Cat in My Pants movie.
I want to say Life is like, I want to say it's a 73. And Blue Streak is like a 52.
Blue Streak is lower at a 35%, which I think maybe that's higher than I thought it would be rated, but I actually really liked that movie when it came out.
Martin Lawrence was pretty funny, and he was pretty hot at the time, too. I mean, like, Bad Boys isn't Bad Boys without Martin Lawrence. Like, you can say Will Smith's the action star, but Martin Lawrence is freaking hilarious. And But out of all the movies you named for 1999, Blue Streak's probably the one I think of the least out of all of them.
100%. I think that time that I have to look when Big Mama's House came out.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Like Big Mama's House and Blue Streak, like for whatever reason, like that we were leaning into Martin Lawrence. And I thought Blue Streak was hilarious. Life was not as high as I thought it was. It was a 52%.
Yeah, I thought that was higher because I remember that movie being really good.
Yeah, like I feel like when people talk about that movie, just like you said, I think I feel like people talk about it as a really good movie, like not just as we liked it, but like critics liked it too. So it was interesting to see it was at a 52%. So
I think, I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like sometimes critics are getting better about viewing movies as what they are. Yeah. And what I mean by that is Life is what it is, right? Like it's a certain type of comedy, certain type of humor. You have to view it as what it is, right? Like we're not, you can't compare, an Oscar-winning movie in Life in the same way, right? Like you can't grade them on the same scale.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we were talking about, like these horror movies that are coming out. Like as much as I thought Companion was great, Companion was a great horror movie. Companion's not going to win any awards next year, right? Like it's not going to happen.
But when you know what it is,
what you're talking about this like black comedy horror movie. They did a really good job. Like they executed really well. And that's why you get these reviews that are like, oh, it's highly rated because of stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think critics are doing better about that because some of these movies we're talking about, like let's review Lake Placid again. Like it's a really well done horror comedy.
Yeah.
But you got to review it for what it is.
For sure. I agree. I think that's a really good point, which I think is why I always kind of historically, way before we started doing this on the pod, but like I always looked like growing up, Rotten Tomatoes was always something that was just like, the snobs, like they don't like good movies,
Okay, so we didn't talk about this, but like, what do you think Galaxy Quest is on Rotten Tomatoes?
Oh man, that's so. I would bet that it's low, primarily because like, other than us talking about how much we love this movie, and when we were like, oh, do you remember Galaxy Quest? Like nobody talks about that movie. Nobody brings up Galaxy Quest, So probably like in the 40s, maybe 50s.
Galaxy Quest on Rotten Tomatoes is a 90.
Holy shit.
Yep.
Well deserved. It is so good.
It's actually higher than the audience rating. The audience rating is a 79.
Oh my God. That's higher than literally any of the movies we talked about.
Yep.
Well, I didn't pick any fucking bangers here purposely. So
right.
Wow.
But again, to that point, I think Galaxy Quest well exceeded the expectations it probably had for it when it came out. Because if you're watching you're like, oh, they're going to make a movie that's like a Star Trek spin-off, rip-off, satire.
And it's like, the quality is really good.
Yeah. And then it's hilarious. And you're like, oh, that's actually a really good movie.
They literally made the movie as like the quality of a Star Trek movie for 1999.
Absolutely.
So,
great.
Love it. Sweet.
Great stuff. So I got
good list.
3 out of 4, I think.
You did get 3 out of 4.
Okay.
You did get 3 out of 4. You were way off on your total number.
Stupid Lake Placid bullshit.
I knew that one was going to be.
Deep Blue Sea Mines.
Hey, LL Cool J was in Deep Blue Sea, which is why.
Still has one of the most iconic scenes ever with the Samuel L. Jackson, like at the beginning, giving that speech, and then he just shredded. If nobody's seen that movie, like you're like, what just happened?
That's probably one of the top 5 like what the F moments in a movie ever.
It's pretty close because you're like, no way.
Yeah, it came out.
He's like the biggest actor in this movie.
He's the biggest star in the movie.
They just killed him.
It's great.
And then LL Cool, and I remember they made a lot of jokes too because it was like LL Cool J. He's the chef, and he's a black guy. There's no way he's gonna live in this movie. And then he's like the last one alive, and you're like, wait a minute.
They talk about him being like the black comedic sidekick who like never survives. And
LL Cool J is a talented dude. I like his acting and stuff. So
between that and Any Given Sunday, I love LL in movies.
I wish he did more.
Cool.
To be honest with you, but all right, that takes us to the end of episode 74 of the Movie Dads podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, please click that like and subscribe. Make sure you click that bell. You get notifications when new episodes come out. If you're not watching us on YouTube, hopefully you're listening to us on one of many podcast networks such as Spotify, Apple, Audible, iHeartRadio, among many others. You can also listen to some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We're back next week, episode number 75 for the Movie Dads podcast. We're going to do some nostalgia goggles. Movie from my childhood that came out before Kyle was born. An absolute dumpster fire of a film. Sometimes we got to watch bad ones. We're going to watch the Dolph Lundgren classic, Masters of the Universe.
Oh, let's go.
And we might absolutely set that movie on fire when we're done.
Skeletor. Bring it on.
Yeah. He-Man.
I'll get away with this, He-Man.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.